it's like they have actually folded into a certain corner. I saw the other day they're actually calling Billy to go and I don't know, give a statement or something. They know where Billy is. They know whatever happened to Billy and the other people, but they are behaving as if these things didn't happen. Yeah. So going forward, I think we must demand accountability from anyone and from any person holding public office in Kenya, because we've been treated for a very long time as low-class citizens, people who don't matter, people who don't like, the government doesn't really care. People who hold offices in Kenya have actually treated Kenya with a lot of contempt, and that one has to stop. So tukutane Tuesday mi nitakuwa tao. If anything happens, let it happen. Thank you for the mic.
Hello, Lazo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I believe I've made my submissions. Thanks for the mic. You can proceed to the next speaker. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Joining me as the co-host is Manwa from the council member. He's a council member of the Law Society of Kenya. I think he will take over from me and welcome other speakers as we go along.
Hey everyone, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I think right now is a very big moment of sadness for Kenyans, especially with what's happening in Kore. And I think that's something we have never seen as a country. And one of the things I would say is that I'm just going to use the Occam's razor, that the best explanation to a phenomena is the one that makes the least assumptions. So looking at this entire situation, so the police were just shooting people aimlessly, like during the protests. Then a couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, you end up with so many bodies in a quarry. And you have seen before that that has been their MO. So that's one of the things that's a very simple assumption to explain the phenomenon that's happening. That said, I think we elected the president to have our best interests in place, not to lord over us or say that the police is an independent unit and he doesn't have oversight on them. I mean, he's the head of the country, so technically anything that happens, especially with public institutions, is his mandate. So I think that's something else that's very painful and it kind of evokes so many emotions within us. And thank you also the work that the Law Society of Kenya has been doing, championing for the people who are arrested wrongfully. And also, I mean, in case you never took up the work, then some of these people might have disappeared also. So that's a very good job that you've been doing. But I think going forward, we need also the police to be held accountable, because I think so far they have been operating from a space of non-accountability. So that said, the president can't just distance himself from the police service and just say that they're independent body. He kind of shies away from taking responsibility of all these deaths that's happening. And I was just watching him. I think he was in Elgeyo Marakwet today. He was, I think, launching something to do with a dam or something. And he was saying that he has been seeing the news of people being retrieved in the quarry pit, and that most of them are women. So, I mean, so far, I think I just saw some images and yeah, they are women, but also I think that's a story that can be twisted in so many ways, but it's such an easy explanation that there have been protests, people are seen being shot live on the camera, then the unidentified people are now showing up in quarries. Also, something that I was thinking about is These people are people who have families, they have kids, they have mothers, they have brothers and sisters. So just imagining for the last 2 weeks, we haven't been hearing, I mean, it wasn't in the national limelight, but imagine there are so many families looking for their loved ones and they couldn't see them. And I'm sure they went to police stations, they asked, where are these people? And they didn't get answers, only for 2 weeks later for them to get answers at the city mortuary. I think that's one of the worst. And this one of never gonna heal actually, especially anything to do with government. They're never gonna view the government in the same way, especially any institution, the police, the judiciary, they're never gonna view anyone in government or the government in any good way, just as the people who were tortured during the Moi era. I'm pretty sure most of them never see the government in any good way. And losing trust in your government is one of the worst things that can happen. So I would say Tuesday we have protests coming up. So yeah, I think people should show up just for the people who have died and also just for a better Kenya. I think at this particular point you have seen almost all the organs in this government. So the executive, parliament, judiciary, they don't have the best interests of Kenyans. So for them, it's either about profiteering and actually just about money at this particular point, money and power. And you'd wonder how much money somebody would need at the expense of people dying due to poverty. They can't access good health care, just basic things. But somebody's amassing billions, which they might never use in a life. They're never gonna use in a lifetime. Like even their kids are never gonna finish that. Like they're never gonna deplete that money. So when you think about all these things, it evokes so many emotions of anger and desperation also. Like when you think about the NHIF being bankrupted, at least being robbed in broad daylight, talking about a typing error, like those are kind of mistakes which, like explanations which don't even make sense. And at that particular point, you have people dying in hospitals because they can't access healthcare. Yeah, so it's so much happening in this country. I think the entire system is so rotten that at this particular point, you just need an overhaul of the entire system, just the entire system. I can't even think of any institution of government that would say I'm comfortable that they are okay. Even cases in the judiciary, and that's the where we get our justice from. It's just corruption happening. So it's a lot. I've never seen anything like this. Maybe I wasn't I didn't live during the Moi era, so I don't understand how bad it was back then. But so far we have never seen I've never seen anything like this, especially here in Kenya. And all the things I usually say, like when I travel, let's say to other countries and I see how poverty has affected people, I'm usually scared that, and especially this government, I've been scared that we might see ourselves at that particular point. And these are people just like us who governments have just oppressed them so much that their voices died out. And I usually say, Kenya, you're not really special. Like we might just end up like them. And a case example I usually give is Equatorial Guinea. They have so much oil. The country has like 1.2 million people. But then their president and the son, I think was the vice president, you hear they're buying luxury apartments in France or buying a yacht worth 13 billion shillings. And that's what we are seeing right now here in Kenya. People building properties worth billions or buying planes or whatever. It doesn't even make sense. So, and the people are so poor in that country, and I think that can very easily be replicated by this regime. So, yeah, I think we need to stand up for ourselves and also just try as much as possible to be accountable. I think.
Billy, if I may say something,
No, okay. Who am I speaking to for first?
Lazuj.
Oh, okay, carry on.
Now, I think this evening, you've seen guys accompanying the bodies retrieved from Kware all the way to City Mortuary. And just to maybe echo whatever the last speaker said, it's like we've lost trust in everything we had in Kenya. So you can imagine if people can no longer trust the police officers to accompany bodies that they have retrieved from Kware to City Mortuary, until guys accompany the same vehicle all the way. Walking to Kware all days to City Mortuary, that's a long distance. So ni kama tumepoteza trust kabisa. And I believe the one thing maybe we need to do is the rage we have at the moment, we need to direct it towards as well doing civic education on the ground. Because tunaweza kuwa tuko na hasira online, yes, but there are people who still need to be taught and told what exactly is happening at the moment, so that when it comes to election time, because that's the time we mess up. We are very good people. We are actually angered by so many things during the entire time the government is in office. But when it gets to now elections time, I don't know what happens to Kenyans. We lose our minds and we just go and elect some bogus people. So we need to, I don't know how this is going to be done, but in any capacity you have, if you can at least maybe educate one person or two people in just their civic duty, that would be very important. Then the other thing is, I think we talk a lot and most guys maybe don't even have identification cards, and maybe they have never been registered voters. So we need as well to sensitize people that going forward, your voice matters, and your voice matters especially at the ballot. Take a vote, make sure you have that ID. When it comes to the voicing time, go and choose a leader that when they get to parliament, they won't be compromised. And the other thing, actually, we won't, going forward, I think we believe we should just do away with the parties. If somebody is competent enough and they're actually buying as an independent, that is a reason enough to have them voted in. Because the one mess that we do is following voting on party lines. Then the same party people come to parliament, and they actually people just want to follow politicians, like whatever Raila said, okay, let's go that way. Whatever Ruto has said, let's do that. Whatever this person has said, let's do that. We need to have ideologies going forward, so that if you are being voted in, at least you stand for something, not that you stand for someone. There was a conversation in Kakamega today, and I think people are just telling guys on their faces that this is it. Whatever you guys are trying to do, I hear they want to, I don't know, to do a grand coalition government. That's not what people want. People just want accountability. We want to have working systems. I want to walk into Jogo House to take a passport, and it takes maybe 2 or 3 days. I have my passport there. Not that I have to go to Jogo Road, apply for a passport, then wait for about maybe another 1 year for that to happen, right? We just need working systems, nothing more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let us welcome Wakili Wambeti. Please tell us something. Wakili, are you there?
Yes, I am. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. And allow me to start by introducing myself. I work with the Federation of Women Lawyers as the Executive Director. My name is Annie Reri, and I also join in as a member of the Law Society to just congratulate and to really thank our council under the leadership of our President, Faith Odhiambo, for the great work they're doing. I join in as well with other comrades in our country at this very heavy time. It is heavy. We are tired. We have cried. We don't know what to do. And for us, speaking from where FIDA is, allow me to single out and speak a lot around what's happening with Kware and what's happening to the women in our country. And for the many years FIDA has been in existence, I have worked at FIDA for most of my life. This has been the story of our days. That you wake up, you go to work, and what you get to listen to most of the time are such gruesome, horrific stories about a society that does not value children, that you find perpetrators and people wanting to rape, and they actually rape children who are even 1 month old. What does that speak about the society? So I'm painting this picture so that we see the trajectory as to how we have ended up even in the mess we are at as a country, where we've lost values. We want to objectify women. We have maimed, hurt, and even killed women and children. And that speaks to how we value ourselves. So looking at what has happened today at Kware, it's really, really unfortunate. And one of the things we are trying to look at is what contributed to this. And we joined in as FIDA Kenya, being members of the Police Reform Working Group. We have been at the forefront alongside other comrades, speaking particularly to what we are saying today. We must be a country that is governed by transparency and accountability. And what does accountability mean? As we've said, that we must have systems that work, a justice system that I, as a Kenyan, can have faith in, that I don't need to take someone's life. I know that I will go to court, trust that system, and be able to get justice out of it. A system where we feel, particularly for women and children, and allow me to give you the synopsis. As a country, for those who understand, even the justice system is skewed largely to protect perpetrators. We are talking about a country where, even as FIDA, we have submitted severally. We cannot have multi-billion infrastructure, yet we don't have courts that protect children. Can you imagine a child who's 3 years old, who's been defiled, and every other time she has to come to court and face the monster who took away her innocence? And this is just a budgetary question. It's a question of us being very active and calling out, and we have done that. That as we allocate certain amounts that go to structures and buildings that we will never use, can't we just take time to invest in our courts, to protect women, to protect children, to protect any person, even men? We have cases of men who are being violated. And to wake up to news yesterday of bodies being found takes us back to January when we had cases of femicide, and we came together with the gallant student leaders in our campuses and colleges, where we called out that as Kenyans, young or old, male or female, we cannot walk in our country always looking back, scared and worried that you don't know what will happen next to you next. We must be a country that assures you that you will be secure, that you'll be protected. And if at all you happen to be in conflict with the law, that there are systems that we trust that will be able to handle that. So it's truly unfortunate. As women, our hearts are cried out. They are cried out. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to walk, where to be safe. We imagine we live in a country that we are treated as badly as being mutilated, as you've heard, that we are being stacked up in sacks. And we are normalizing it, because one of the things we kept on raising, even as women, as women in the country, and those who are working with us, and the men and our brothers and dads, is that we cannot sit and normalize that a child who, or a baby who is 1 month old, was raped, that a grandma who was 99 years old or 86 years old was burnt alive in her house or was raped. What does that speak about us? We refuse to normalize. And when we have a breakdown of values, breakdown of systems, as we have, and I've had several great speakers before me go, that this mess is where we end up with. That we must have institutions that speak and protect the citizen. I've been a student of public policy, and I'm passionate about it. And one of the tenets of public policy is that we must have policies that address issues that are realistic, that have the people at heart. And that's the conversation we are having. So we join in accountability, and accountability to the point of we must demonstrate that indeed as a country, through the people who are in those positions, be it in government, be it in the legislature, that we are walking the talk. If we want to speak about protecting young people, we want to know that a girl who's 19 years old or a young man leaving campus on Thika Road to get to her hostel or in Kisumu does not have to be accosted because we have security breakdown. We've not invested in systems, in security lights, yet we pay taxes. We want to know that a child who's defiled has to go to court only once because we have invested in tele video evidence that she does not have to miss school every other time because she has to come to a court where the case keeps on being adjourned. Can you imagine what that child goes through? We must be a country that if I am 96 years old and widowed, I know the society around me is going to protect me. When my time to go will come, I will be treated with dignity. So as I conclude, one of the things, and that's what saddens us the most, is that beyond the senseless abductions that we join in as FIDA Kenya to call out, beyond the senseless killings and extrajudicial killings, misuse of police power and excesses, is that we now have a situation where the dignity and the sanctity of one being called a Kenya has been watered down. Be it because you're poor or your circumstances cannot allow you to seek justice, that you cannot be able to have enough places that you can seek access to justice. FIDA Kenya is a charity organization and has survived like that for the last 40 years without receiving a single cent from the exchequer. And part of why FIDA exists and ends up seeing close to 200 women every day in our offices is because of the same breakdown of systems and services in the country. Most progressive jurisdictions give free legal aid. If I have violated by my partner, doesn't mean enmity. If I need to seek shelter, I have a place where the government has set aside for me to have a temporary home, to get my house in order, to get mental wellness and decide I can part ways with my partner well. Well, when I feel I have a neighbor I have a dispute with, I can go to court and then be able to have justice meted out. So I join in this conversation that part of what we must have is accountability. We must bring back the dignity of being a Kenyan. That even if you're not a billionaire or a millionaire, you can wake up with pride, go to work because the working conditions that you have dignify you, that we are not having people having to walk so many distances to work. And that's what we see in Nairobi every day because they cannot afford fare. Yet we want to call ourselves a progressive society. We cannot. So we join in. We are truly, truly heartbroken. And as FIDA Kenya, who we have been working around issues of femicide since I think we started. And for those of us who've been following us, you've noticed even with the young women, whenever it happened and there were senses and signs of even victim shaming, we've always said, let's not go there. It's not about where she was or what she was doing. No one has a right to take anybody's life. So we must dignify what it means to be a Kenyan. We must call for transparency and accountability. And we speak of a society electing leaders who mirror them. So we must walk the talk. And I like what has been said. We must join in registering ourselves, going out for elections, including party primaries. And allow me to single this because I've also worked on elections. One of the things we miss out on is when the time comes, we wait for the last day of the election, the main election day. But guess what? There's a lot that goes on even during party primaries, and we don't need to join parties that exist. People are free to join parties, progressive, idealistic parties, because parties will still be the ones that deliver people. So let's spread the message. Let's not relent. I know probably a section of our youth might feel they do not want to vote again. We must fight against voter apathy. And as has been stated, couple civic education with political education. And we know circumstances, particularly of inadequacy, lack of access to resources, is what clouds political education, hence the handout syndrome we have in our country. But we must walk the talk if we are to really break this curse in our country, that I can go and we can have people vying for office. We have seen it demonstrated without having to bribe or have handouts. But when they get into office, we must have a matrix that we hold them to account. And we've done that. It is doable. We do that with our women leaders, those where we can. We work with them, we agree on what they're going to do, and we've seen a level of success with that level of accountability. So I'm really, really glad, as heartening and sad as we are looking at circumstances today, that we are in a space where citizens are coming together as we have today to call out and to demand, and let's not relent. Accountability is across society. So whatever leadership spaces in government, out of government, in our religious spaces, in our civic spaces, in our homes, if we know a neighbor who's mistreating or beating up a wife or a spouse, or even a wife mistreating a husband, we need to call that out, because that is a fabric of our society. So thank you so much for having me. Allow me to end there, and we join in, and again committing that FIDA will work with the families. We have always done that. We'll offer psychosocial support through our various counselors on site. We will walk the justice walk alongside comrades in the sector and make sure none of those deaths will go unaccounted for. Each of those ladies has a story. Each of them have a unique life story. We owe it to them to make sure that we get to the bottom of this road. Thank you very much.
Let me just chip in. Thank you, Anne. And even Horton that spoke with regards to what they saw today and as the bodies were being removed. And I think some of you have seen on different media graphic scenes of what how some of the body parts have been chopped in pieces, and we are demanding action. I think if there is ever a time where we should hear the president talking about an address, it should be exactly now. We demand that the head of state should address his people with regards to what concrete actions are going to be taken to ensure that we have expedited investigations and that we get to the book. And let's see, even I associate myself with the statement that was issued with Amnesty, FIDA, amongst other different organizations, calling for let's have also different parties represented, the different stakeholders, that we can be ascertained that the process is open and transparent. We've been talking about femicide from the previous year and even early this year when the cases became much more. And we cannot continue in this trajectory. We appreciate the statement by the Director of Public Prosecutions, but he had issued a statement before, even with regards to Rex Masai's case, and want to see how far that has gone. Time has been ticking. We are still not satisfied with the statements that were issued by IPOA. We need to see justice being done, and justice delayed is justice denied. And that therefore we must demand that we need to see proactive action to get to the bottom of these killings. Yesterday 9 bodies, today more bodies have been removed from the quarry, and there are demands that also National Construction Authority to close down quarries for some time to allow proper investigations to be done. And we also have a monitoring system. We cannot continue to see more of our sisters and brothers being killed and thrown in different body parts. It's even hard to identify when such a thing, and they have been dismantled in pits and pieces. It even kills that essence of humanity, because you don't understand what human being would do this to another human being. And so the nation demands to be addressed with what is happening, what must be done, and with timelines, so that we don't wait for another sensation to sweep this story under the carpet. We need to get answers, and as soon as possible. Thank you. I think Billy or Manuel, you can continue opening. Manuel, you can give someone else, part of those who are still waiting to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. With those submissions, I've listened to the different submissions that have been made by the contributors in this forum. And I think it's very important that we emphasize on what you have just stated, because these bodies are being dumped in institutions that are under the control of government. The quarries are under the National Construction Authority. The forests where these people are found dumped are under the National Forest Service, and you understand other places, including rivers and water bodies. Those places are under respective government entities, and it's important now that the civil society should put these government institutions on the radar as to how individuals are found damned within the spaces where they're supposed to actually take or watch and take responsibilities for. And it's very important that we hold them accountable, because once we voice our views on these spaces where people are damned, it's important that these institutions take responsibility personally and individually for purposes of ensuring that there is accountability and there is also transparency in terms of the investigations that are undergoing. I will allow, we have several speakers in the line. We have experts equally who intend to speak on a number of issues. I'll want to invite Sir John Kenya, if you can hear me. And I appreciate what Wakili Wambeta has indicated from FIDA Kenya, because again, this is a collective responsibility from all the institutions. The ladies who are found there are actually Kenyan citizens. It can be any of us. And it's very important that we actually pay attention to what is happening. At the end of the day, we have a proper constitution that we have to protect, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which gives privileges, rights, responsibilities to institutions of government. And it's very important that we hold individuals in those offices. If you think you are not going to be accountable, and I speak from the perspective of IPOA, which has been receiving resources of the public in terms of facilitation and allocations from Parliament, but they cannot account as to what investigations, as to how many police officers have been held accountable by using live bullets to shoot Kenyan citizens who are exercising their constitutional rights. We have to hold these institutions, not only the institution as an institution created under statute, but in also the officers given the responsibility to run and manage those institutions. And I think this is a conversation that we'll continue to have. I don't know, Sir John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Kindly proceed. We can hear you. Kindly proceed.
Okay, thank you so much and good evening. I only have just a few to put across. May the soul of those who have lost their lives rest in peace. I think what we are seeing is very unfortunate. And I think Ruto must come out and explain to us what inspired. It's very painful to watch bodies being retrieved just near a police station. I'm again here to confirm that on Tuesday, let us stand up, let us show up, and reclaim our country. I think it is for us. There's no one who will come for us. It is us. Let's avoid these politicians. This is our time. Yeah, so thank you so much and have a good night.
Thank you, Sir John, for those contributions. Howard, are you there? And guys, it's very important to note that we have legal experts within this space. It's important that you raise concerns and questions that these individuals can be able to answer and respond to. We have people from different spaces. We have journalists. We have professionals from different spaces, and it's very important that actually we raise concerns that touch on the professions that I have just mentioned, so that at least we have experts who can be able to address these concerns. Kindly proceed.
Thank you so much, Manwa, and the other co-hosts, and thank you for this space. First is just to send my condolences to the families that have lost loved ones. I've had I've read people posting on social media how perhaps the gender of the deceased is only ladies, as though it is right for it to be only ladies. Others have commented that maybe it's not out of the action of the police from the recent demonstrations and the abductions, as though abducting is right, and as though, dying is okay as long as it's not done by the police. Either way, I think the police and government have got a big role to play, whichever way, whether they are the ones who kill them or not. If they are not the ones who kill them, they still have a responsibility to unravel and get people to know how these people came to die, how they came to be gathered in one place in a very characteristic way that looks more or less as though the person who committed the crimes is one and the same person. My background is in construction, and I wanted to shed a little bit of light on a point that the president raised, and I think Wakili Manwa also mentioned something on it. The quarries. Quarries, normally there is a procedure for anyone to open up a quarry, especially if they're using it for construction. And the parties involved is not just NCA. NEMA also has got a key role in approval of any usage of a quarry, and is still a government agency of regulatory nature. And when the quarry, when a quarry has stopped being used, there is a clear procedure of decommissioning it. I'm just wondering how we remain with a quarry that is in disuse. It has never been decommissioned, and part of the things, the safety measures that are taken before you decommission a quarry is to make it safe for any human beings that are living close. For instance, if it has sharp edges, let's say like cliffs, you have to ensure that you cut them down so that there are slopes that someone can go down safely and get out safely. If they have any chances of ponding, you have to ensure that you backfill so that you do not have that kind of ponding. In case you want to convert it, say, in a water pan so that it can be a source of water or a water reservoir, then there is a way you are supposed to fence it off so that first you protect the source of water from being contaminated by people coming around, and at the same time also protect it from the dangers of any people who are living in the vicinity, perhaps falling in by accident or by any other reason, like the reasons that we are seeing where people are killing others and dumping them there. Either way, there has to be an agency somewhere that has either slept on the job or has acted negligently for us to be in the situation that we are in. Quickly, I'll try to make a comment on the situation as it has been going on in the country and where we are. I know right now, because of the pressure, several things have happened. The president has done a huge step in dissolving his cabinet. But from where I sit, the biggest step is yet to be taken, because the biggest win is not the dissolution of the cabinet. The biggest win is in how to reconstitute the cabinet. When I listen to politicians, a lot of times I feel like most of them are still not getting the point. They don't seem to separate why people are protesting and why people are having unrest. Some of them are looking for someone to blame. Some are looking for a leader, perhaps so that they can target them. Some of them are looking for a leader, maybe so that they can compromise them. But they don't seem to get the real point and the real uh, place that pinches Kenyans. If anyone was listening, by now they should have known that the deepest call for Kenyans is just call for accountability. Do what you promised. President William Ruto, from where I sit, I strongly believe that he's someone who was elected by popular vote because he convinced people and made people to appreciate and believe in his dream. He was very convincing. He made big promises, promises that that there will be no extrajudicial killings when he becomes president, promises that he will turn around the economy from the bottom. He made people believe that when he becomes president, those who are weak, those who are struggling, the masses, the unskilled, the semi-skilled, will get opportunities to be productive, contribute to the economy, and perhaps improve the revenue collection for the economy and make a country better. But when he became president and some of the proposals that were being made, they turned out to look like they were harsh. In 2023, people sat back and said, okay, let's try it as long as it is going to help us to move to the right direction. Mostly because I believe that a leader, someone who is up there, they have access to information, they have access to intel that most of us might not be having. So many times we have to give a benefit of doubt to the leader and the person who is high up there. But when it turns out that our worries become confirmed, that that was a bad decision after being patient for 1 year, and then another bad decision again is piled up on it, it gets people worried. If we have to get from where we are, and if we must get a win from the dissolution of the cabinet, there are several things that I think the president must do in walking us to the next cabinet. Number one, if I were to speak to him directly, I don't have that chance here, but I will still say it because I'm speaking to Kenyans. He must avoid as much as possible the known groupings, the wash groupings. They are known. Either the intelligence system machinery that is set up by government is able to give him all the full list of names of the wash enterprise, and he must avoid them as much as possible. He must avoid um, generally recycling the political class, because that's something that is really going to anger Kenyans so much if he has to go that direction. Number three, he must avoid these Azimio and ODM scavengers, because there are several of them that I can see around who are already milling around and trying to get an opportunity, perhaps in the name of government of national unity, dialogue, and blah blah. That will be a mistake, because if he goes that direction, it's going to make things messier, and he might create a lot more anger from the public, and I don't know how it will turn out. Number four or number five, one of the biggest problems we faced, when the president was campaigning, he was a totally different person. He has to bring us that William Ruto that was there during the campaigns, that William Ruto that was very promising, and the William Ruto that was carrying the aspirations of Kenyans while he was looking for the votes. He was able to identify between meritocracy and sycophancy. When he was picking his campaign machinery, uh, by a big extent, he picked people who were competent, some of them who were even his known enemies, but because they had the skill sets and the competencies, he was able to pick them. He gave us a picture that this can be a president who will pick the right people for the job and get the job done. When he won the elections, things changed, because he went back for the the non-wash gangs, and the method approach that was used to select his cabinet from the word go, I think from where I sit and from the things I've heard, was faulty. And I always say that every human being, however good they are, including all of us on this forum, you have potential to be devils or potential to be angels. The difference, what makes the difference between whether you'll be a devil or an angel, is the method that puts you in the place that you find yourself in. So even if you got an angel being employed as a cabinet secretary, but the angel has to part with 100 million or 200 million, there is always the risk that once that angel becomes that cabinet secretary, they can easily become a devil because of the method or the approach that was used to get them into that position. And that was one of the tragedies that must have been experienced, because there was a lot of stories of hundreds of millions exchanged with through gunny bags and what have you at that time. Whether it is believable, whether it's true or not, I think his excellency the president must be knowing the truth behind that. It's another pitfall that he must avoid by all means. He must avoid it like a plague this time round when he's selecting his cabinet, and he must find a way of going out there, whether he's picking people from the civil service or from the private sector. He must pick people that first he's confident and happy about their competencies, but secondly, he needs to pick them purely based on merit, so that he has some degree and a leeway for control, so that he knows the relationship between him and the people that he has chosen as a cabinet is performance and delivery to the Kenyan public, as opposed to trying to pay debts that you have incurred, by collecting money or letting money exchange between people and others. I think that might help him if he follows those 4 or 5, if he watches out for those 4 or 5 pitfalls. Perhaps he might just bring us a cabinet that might make the nation celebrate, and not only celebrate, but begin working on a journey to recovery and to healing of this nation. Because I want to believe everyone who is stepping out there on the streets, everyone who is protesting on social media, everyone who is doing these demos and occupy here, occupy there, occupy this organization, everyone who is doing whatever they're doing, they mean well. They would like to have a better country. All of us would like to build a better Kenya. All of us would like to see a Kenya that is prospering. We would like to see a Kenya that is productive, a Kenya that is exporting, has value that it can give to other nations, a Kenya that has got a strong and performing currency. If all these things happen, everybody is happy. I want to believe even those who will be in power, they will be happy to have an economy that is growing, an economy that can pay its debt, an economy that is promising to its young people, an economy that is not throwing desperation and lack and scarcity to its people. I think I would bring it to an end there, and just encourage each one of us, whatever you are doing, keep on doing it. Of course, I'm glad to see that we are surrounded by a big cloud of advocates. I say this because let's keep on doing this, remembering that we have a law, because the only thing that puts us together as a country is that piece of statute called a constitution, because it's a contract we have between us that tells us we need to live with each other in this manner. If that constitution was not there, we have no business or anything else that guides why we are sitting together as a country. We must keep on remembering that we have that document to govern us, that document to help us to walk a common journey, to focus on a common destiny as a country, and support each other and encourage each other. For a long time, our country has been run based on fear. The powers of the administrators, of the people who have been leading, they have led through fear. You were just scared. You are threatened of this, threatened of that. You are told, if you comment, there is a time for those of us who are my age, people could not even sit in their house and mention the name of the president. Those years in 80s, in 90s, and then there came to a time when people, at least when President Kibaki came, and there was a bit of opening up the democratic space, but still people kept on pulling each other back with the threats and the fears that you cannot say something against government. Government will bite you. Government will do ABC to you. And our political class seem to be stuck in that past. They think that they cannot be told anything, and if you are told, and if you try to tell them anything, they think they can find 1,001 ways to fix you, to hurt you, to injure you, to do ABCD. But for if there are many more voices who are speaking out and coming out and letting this known that this is what we would like to have as a country, this is what perhaps will give us progress and help them maybe to stop just one time and listen and understand what their people are speaking. Because by and large, including those people who are speaking and do not deeply understand why they're going that direction, they are feeling something, and that's something that they're feeling is it means well for the country. We just want systems that are working. We want people that care. We want leadership that cares where they're taking their nation, so that we move to one common destination that is good for all of us as a country. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Howard. I think you have raised substantive issues. I want to assure you that as the Law Society will ensure that we follow up on the questions you have raised on the National Environmental Management Authority, which has the responsibility to manage those spaces where people were found to have been dumped, and we will ensure that we hold them responsible as to how those
Wakili,
individuals who are dumped in those places.
NEMA, they actually supposed to issue
Yes,
licenses for decommissioning. I'm wondering why they have not done that, and why they've taken that long, and why we still have an open place that is dangerous to the public. So I appreciate that you can pick it up and follow it up, so that at least we have firm answers from the regulators. Thank you.
yes, thank you. We will ensure that we initiate that process, including instituting proceedings before the tribunal and even in court. As you are aware, we have the Environment and Land Court within the spaces of the High Court that actually handles environmental issues. And this is one of the areas we want to pursue as a law society, to ensure that they account for those spaces, and including the risks you have indicated. Because if those spaces are a risk to the public, they have a duty to actually secure the places, those places from by ensuring that they are not a risk to the members of the public. I want to allow someone else to speak. Dr. Ben, can you hear me? You have the microphone. Dr. Ben, are you there? You have the microphone. Kindly.
Yes, I'm here. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Kindly proceed.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys. My name is Ayo. First of all, my deepest condolences to, all the lives we lost. Everyone that has faced police brutality. I mean, we really sorry for them. And as I begin, I just have a few questions that we've been asking, but we still don't have answers to. Yes, we saw that the president decided to, send all the CSs home. Of course, now they're sacked, and so what does that mean to these CSs in all these various departments? Are they gonna be grilled? I mean, are they? Most of them were corrupt. Are they gonna face the law? Are they gonna be taken to book? Because we need answers. What really happened? What work were they doing in their various departments? And all the monies that were lost, all the public funds that were lost, and are we gonna recover them? The MPs. I feel now that the CSS are gone, we need to recall our MPs. We need to recall our MPs, because the country has been going through a lot, and most MPs have not been able to even account for the various monies allocated to the various constituencies. And are they dissolving the parliament? And what really is the process of dissolving the parliament? Because as we speak, the country just wants the whole system flushed out. Everybody's on the streets that they're like, Ruto must go. I mean, are we gonna get the work done? And what's the process of getting that work done? The reconstitution.
Sorry, is everyone else able to follow what Dr. is saying? I don't seem to hear him.
We can hear him.
We can hear me. We can hear him. I don't know. I think you need to check on your internet.
Okay, so I can continue.
We can hear him what he said. Yeah,
Okay.
please continue.
On matters IBC.
Is there anyone
When is
speaking?
it being reconstituted? Because even if we had to go back to the drawing board and go for elections today, we don't have a functional independent electoral system. We don't have it. When is it being reconstituted? Because those are answers we really need as Kenyans. And on matters concerning police brutality, when yesterday or the other day on the Citizen Assembly, you all heard how that poor woman was really, crying about her son. He didn't know where her son was. He's asking questions. And I know many other women out there are asking about their children. Do we have answers to these women? Do we have answers for our parents? Where are our fellow Gen Zs and youths, because they're missing? And we also, the bodies that were recovered on those dump sites, are these the missing people that we've been reporting missing? Are they being abducted then killed? And if they're being abducted then killed, who's handling this mess? Who's gonna answer for all this mess? Because one life lost is too many. And every day the media is reporting the number of people killed. It's not even the accurate number. Is the media gagged? Is the government gagging the media? Because we have a lot of unanswered questions from the media. One media reports this, the other reports that. Then the netizen come to, discover something so different from whatever has been happening. So is the media really independent, or is it gagged? So those are some of the questions. And the abductees, what is the government doing to ensure that the abductees are found? And if they are dead, are they accounted for? Is the government accounting for all these bodies? on matters police brutality, these policemen, this police force, we have them on camera. Why is the president still saying that we're gonna look into that? Yet we have these policemen on camera. We have them shooting innocent lives on the streets. We have them forcing, like, beating us up on the streets. There are pictures, there's pictorial evidence, there are video evidence, and yet they can't still be brought to book. So those are some of the questions that I'm asking myself as a Kenyan, as a young Kenyan, because on Tuesday we're still hitting the streets. On Tuesday we're still going to the streets, and we have only one message, that Ruto must go, and he has to go, because we can't have a government that, is instilling punitive taxes on us. When we make noise, we still get killed. And these policemen, I've been documenting a documentary since the protest began, and I've been releasing snippets. But thing is, some policemen are literally crying and saying, yo, si hatutaki kwa hizi streets, but tumeambiwa tukuje. I have video evidence. I interviewed one of them, and they said, me by them hatutaki kwa hizi streets, but wadosi wametukanyagia tukuje kwa hizi streets. Na nikamuuliza, are you guys allowed to shoot live bullets on us? Are you guys allowed to lobby live bullets on us? Wanasema they are not allowed, but wamefinywa. Because at the end of the day, they have to report to their bosses that such a thing happened. They took lives. So is IG Koome going to be jailed or what? Because they were under instructions, I'm sure. So we really need to start asking these difficult questions, because innocent Kenyans' lives are involved. Babies are involved. Our children are involved in this. They're being, like, a 2-year-old baby being shot, or a 3-year-old baby or a 5-year-old baby being shot, to be honest. Anajua kurusha mawe, hajui kurusha mawe. Anajua Ruto must go, hajui. But hata wamama wetu wako tu kwa biashara zao, wanakuwa humbled up, like wakipigwa. I mean, what kind of country are we in? What kind of country are we gonna live in? And what's our future? Because for us, we just need answers. And what we need is Ruto must go. And are we reconstituting the IBC? Sorry for taking the mic too long. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much for those questions, and I think they are critical. Some of the questions were responded to, and it's very important that we go back to what we spoke about. On the question of police brutality and the abductions, the injuries meted on the members of the public through live bullets and rubber bullets and whichever form of injuries, we have documented this process from the beginning. As the Law Society of Kenya, we have, as we mentioned yesterday, over 36 cases in court challenging specific issues of abductions, of disappearances, of the deaths that have been experienced so far. We have documented, and we continue to document the deaths that were registered on Friday, were discovered on Friday in the quarry. And I think it's important that the members of the public appreciate that as the Law Society, we have a tall number. And again, if you live within that space and you know that there's an injustice that has been committed within that space, it's very important that you actually utilize the tall number. I think it's on the page of the president of the Law Society, Faith Odhiambo's Twitter account. You can be able to, communicate anything confidentially as to what you have witnessed within this period, so that the Law Society can be able to pick it up. I will want to invite, I can see we have journalists on this space. I'll want to invite them as speakers to answer the question as to whether the media is independent and whether it's being gagged. Even as we do so, I will ask one of the members, one of the advocates in this forum, to answer the question of IEBC and the constitution of it. You are aware that the president signed the act a week ago on constituting the commissioners of the independent and the IBC generally. So we will have someone to respond to those questions. But even before we do that, perhaps if I don't know whether Dr. Ben is here, we can give you that chance before we give John Alan Namu to respond to the question of the media and what the media is doing to ensure that they actually document what is happening. Dr. Ben, are you there? If Dr. Ben is not there, John Alan Namu, you have the microphone. Kindly, if you can proceed. You've had the questions that have been raised. John, are you there? Can you hear me? Wakili Ndegwa, can you respond to the questions of IEBC? You have the microphone even as we wait for the other speakers to confirm.
I am not sure the exact issue to address in respect to the IBC, but all what I would say is that we all know that we are the verge where we must reconstitute that body. And the procedure of the reconstitution is quite different from what was happening before, because we now have political parties playing a major role in the nomination, in the way and the manner in which the commission will be constituted. The most interesting thing that has come out of the amendments to, or rather the act, is the role of the political parties liaison committee. The political party liaison committee is a body that is constituted of various political parties that are duly registered, and they've been given a prominent role because they have 3 slots within which they will fill or to go to the panel that will play the role of selecting and interviewing the potential commissioners. And we all understand that that political parties are easily infiltrated by various conflicting interests. So the most important thing that we must do is that to guard jealously to make sure that political parties bring into the panel competent individuals who will play the role of selecting and interviewing the commissioners. Of course, you understand that garbage in, garbage out. If we are able to get garbage at the panelist level, you will expect that the commissioners will come there in after will also be the same garbage. Azimio and KK coalition have equally been given one individual. The church has been given one individual because the panels, the total number is 9. So the question is, how do we make sure that the individuals coming to that particular panel are men and women of integrity who are beyond reproach, and men who cannot be compromised by the conflicting interests? We must all understand that political parties will have serious interest in the manner in which the IBC is reconstituted. So we must, I'm imploring upon everyone to stay on guard, to make sure that who are beyond reproach and who are not capable of being compromised. Permit me to move to the next level of what is currently happening. I have had various submissions and listened to able presentations, but I'm just asking myself, are we going to continue relying on the existing institutions? In my view, this is, I think, 14th day from all when these disappearances and abductions took place, and there is nothing that has happened. Howard submitted and said that if you look at the manner in which these bodies are being discovered, the manner in which they are being stuffed in those gunny bags, the places in which they are being recovered from, in my view, it speaks about a very well choreographed, a systematic way of doing it. Then, if you look at also the way they are spread, to me, I think it's the high time we now start thinking outside the box Even as we give them the benefit of doubt, our existing institutions, as we give them the benefit of doubt, they should know that the big brother is watching. So I have kept on advocating that we need to operationalize other international mechanisms and instruments to make sure that in the event the local instruments fails, will not perhaps have lost the most crucial evidence. Because as at now, we are relying on the individuals whom we perceive as perpetrators. Because in my view, unless the government comes out clean, we all make an assumption which is not rebuttable and which has not been rebutted, that this is as a result of the government apparatus or state apparatus. How then can we go ahead and still expect that the perpetrator can perhaps help us resolve the current existing scenario? In my view, and I'll still say again, be it the Human Rights Watch, be it the Kenya Human Rights Commission, all international organizations or bodies domiciled here within, including the local journalism, we need to expose these things critically. You remember during the post-election violence, Boniface Mwangi was able to collect. Sorry for that. Mwangi was able to collect a lot of pictorial evidence, which was displaying and which are currently displayed at the Museum of Kenya. That is part and parcel of activism that we all require to make sure that whatever is happening in this republic, the situation in Kenya may be projected out there, so that at the end of the day, people will get to know the existing situation. As at now, we still do not know how many people are missing. I seriously sympathized with that lady who was at the People's Assembly yesterday at Fungamano. And there are so many people who are undergoing similar experiences. So, in my view, we need to move away from the from the Kenya Red Cross. We need to start documenting these, and we need people to assist us. If you require volunteers, we have people who can help organizations collect this data. So that at the end of the day, when we go to the street on Tuesday, the state will know that we are not just depending on the state apparatus who can conceal and mutilate evidence. We are also crying out there to the world for them to come and witness the unfolding events in the Republic of Kenya. I beg to rest my case unless there is any clarification that perhaps may be sought. I'm still online for consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wakili. John Alan Namu, you have the microphone kindly.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you to the LSK and your very able president, Faith, for hosting this space. I've been listening and dipping in and out, unfortunately, technology issues on my end, so I apologize if anything that I'm about to say has already been said or already been covered. But today, as a Kenyan and as a journalist, I sit in a very difficult situation, in a very difficult position in this way. I've been documenting and, as a journalist first with private media and now, running my own independent media company. I've been documenting cases of extrajudicial executions from as far back as the beginnings of the Mungiki killings in 2005 going forward. And, what you start to see is a transformation in methods in places where these bodies are dumped, and usually a holding pattern where a specific methodology is used that reflects that possibly there might be a hand of the state in doing so, right? So, if I'm to compare what we witnessed with River Yala last year to what we've seen yesterday and today, there's a lot of parallels to be drawn now. But here's the difficulty for me. So, because we, as the media generally, are relied upon to relay credible information to members of the public, we have to consult with a number of sources, principle of which has been for years, the police and the state. And I think the previous speaker speaks to the dilemma that we're in. We are now in a situation where the state is, there's such a low trust environment that we are in. I've never encountered this in all of my time reporting, that there's such low trust in the regime, there's such low trust in the state and in the police, that even their figures, even their numbers can't be relied upon. So it really is now a time of real reflection for us in the media, for for everybody generally, on how we can start to gather credible evidence around the kinds of things that are taking place in the country, and b, start to start the process of rebuilding the trust in institutions that we can all put our faith in. I mean, I've spoken about this before, but it's been said many times before that when institutions are over time have trust in them eroded through their actions, through corruption, and the various other things that we've witnessed in the country, we get to a situation where nobody can trust anything, and that becomes an incredibly hard place to navigate. So I'll speak to something that I've encountered over the past, few weeks, beginning with what happened in Githurai, and going forward. So we went out looking for people who can speak credibly to the things that have been taking place, and what we found is at the time that only one person was confirmed dead at that time, right? So we've been trying as hard as we can to find more evidence of even more people who have been killed, and the evidence can't just be people saying that things have happened. We have to go and verify these things for ourselves, lest we then become part of the crowd that's said to be misinforming people. That's a difficult kind of line that we have to walk as journalists now, and unfortunately, because there's a situation where our institutions are also not being trusted as well, the burden of trust that's being placed on us is incredibly high. One we do not shirk or do not run away from, but one that we must acknowledge is incredibly high. So, at this point in time, as things go forward, I would implore members of the public to relying on the media organizations that they trust, or relaying information to the media organizations that they trust, to really try as well, because this is a situation that we haven't encountered before, to also try and see what the level of credibility of the information that's being passed along to us, that makes things easier for us to move a lot faster than we are. It makes things simpler for us to verify. And then the final thing that I will say, as I listen on to the kinds of things that are being said here and have been said elsewhere, is that we are also, just as Kenyans, so deeply pained and so deeply troubled by the things that have been going on with regard to extrajudicial executions, that it's even difficult to speak. I mentioned how long I've been covering these things. I mentioned various instances in which the state was implicated, and it's a very high trust that members of the public place in the state, place in the police, for them to consistently be implicated in these kinds of actions, and it's high time. It really is high time that we consider what kind of institutions we have, how we can rebuild them, who we can put our trust in, because as I've mentioned before, you know, we are not held together by force. We're held together by trust. And so, I mean, if I'm to extend, this whole issue of trust to the kinds of things that LSK is doing now, this is how trust is built, through working with communities, through being open and transparent, and we hope as well to be counted amongst the people who can be trusted on and relied upon, but I'd also appeal for patience from members of the public. I'll stop for now, and and keep listening. But thank you very much for having me on this space. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, John, for those contributions. I think they're immense, and I think your conversation touches on the question that was raised about the role of the media in this whole process. And I hope that you will stay on for questions that will be raised on that line, around that line. At this juncture, I will invite Samuel. I don't know whether, Samuel, you can hear me. You can take over. Samuel. Then after Samuel, we'll have Bio.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm speaking from the diaspora, and I'm very happy for what the initiative the Law Society of Kenya has taken place. I have worked in the government before, and I want to bring to you something very serious that is crippling all the institutions. We have to understand that all bodies in Kenya, they work under the president. So the president appoints the cabinet secretaries. Then the cabinet secretary supervises the accounting officers, the PSS. So even if you get a very good PS right now, he'll still be micromanaged from the presidency. So you need to read the political undertones of what are happening nowadays. There are some very junior government officers who can even give instruction directly to the PSS without even going through the cabinet secretaries. So what we need to do is to reform the country. You can't change the country without changing the top leadership. So even if you constitute the best cabinet right now, given the current political environment we have, those people will still be unable to deliver. We saw what happened, even getting the best Chief Justice after the new Constitution 2012. He was not able to work because he's still working, supervising people who are judges who are still corrupt. And those judges are still working with the political elite. So